Ndị be anyị ekenekwanụ m unu. Asị m ka ụbọchị nketa mara na anyị na mma. Anyị si ka nke onye chikwelu ya zelụkwa. Anyị dịka o si dị, ihe a bụ Eastern News 24 ka anyị si were wetara ya bụ ozi. Unu je gị n'ugbu a n'iru akwụkwọ gbasata maka ya bụ ife na-ada na-akpọtụ na the Old Eastern Region ka anyị na-akpọ Biafra Land, and ife na-eme na mba ụwa dị iche iche, and ife na-eme n'obodo a. Alright, ozi eji maka ya wee bịa bụ according to the Biafran activist weta ya bụ ozi as he quote. Breaking news. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's release gave momentum Kenya to Nigerian government. Return Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to Kenya or face us at ICC, International Criminal Court. Hear the news in details. Alright, this news is according to the Biafran activist with any because don't think na kinogo dia before Jimakia we be the key gesia. Get the article for Pugasi. Over to you, sir.
The Kenyan government has now issued a formal ultimatum to Nigeria. Return Nnamdi Kanu to Kenya within 7 days, or face international legal action and global sanctions. This isn't just diplomacy. It's a full-blown diplomatic crisis between two of Africa's powerhouses. And the world is watching. On June 20, 2025, Kenya's Ministry of Foreign Affairs shocked the continent. In a formal communique delivered to the Nigerian High Commission in Nairobi, they wrote, "Nigeria must correct the illegality committed on our soil, or face full consequences as outlined under international treaties." Attached was a 7-day deadline, demanding either Kanu's safe return to Kenya, or a public admission and compensation agreement brokered by the AU. The tone was unapologetic. The demand, legally binding. This was no longer a court ruling. It was a sovereign order. So why now? Behind closed doors, pressure has been mounting. Human rights organizations have flooded Kenya's inboxes. The UK, where Kanu is a citizen, has quietly pushed for action. Kenyan lawyers argue that ignoring the ruling makes their own judiciary look powerless. But most of all, Kenya's new government wants to restore its continental credibility. They don't want to be remembered as the nation where African law was ignored for political convenience. And Nnamdi Kanu has become the symbol of that struggle. In Abuja, silence. Officially, the Tinubu administration has refused to respond. But sources inside the Ministry of Justice say panic has set in. Why? Because a public confrontation with Kenya could trigger sanctions from the African Union Legal Commission, damage Nigeria's influence in ECOWAS, and risk losing key partnerships with the UK, EU, and even the US. More dangerously, if the case reaches the International Court of Justice, Nigeria could be tried, not Kanu, for illegal rendition. Let's talk about sanctions. Kenya's warning references the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Conduct and the Rome Statute, under which unlawful transfer is a crime. If escalated, Nigeria could face travel bans for top officials, asset freezes in EU/UK zones, suspension from AU human rights panels, and blocked military/security aid from Western allies. Is this likely? Not overnight. But if Britain, Kenya, and human rights groups present a united front, Nigeria will have to choose Kanu or its standing in the world. IPOB's reaction. A chilling statement, released within hours. If Nigeria does not return our leader, the world will see that we are governed by outlaws. They've called for mass protests across Biafra territory, peaceful sit-ins in UK embassies, legal filings in British and Kenyan courts simultaneously. Kanu's legal team, emboldened by Kenya's move, has now petitioned the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention. The net is tightening. 7 days. That's all Kenya has given. 7 days to fix what it calls a crime on its soil. 7 days for Nigeria to choose between legal honor or political ego. 7 days before this internal crisis becomes a global storm. What will happen on day 8? Will Kanu walk free? Will Nigeria apologize? Or will Africa witness a breakdown in law between two sovereign states? The clock is ticking, and every second counts. Day one of Kenya's ultimatum. The deadline has been set. The world is watching. And the stakes? Nothing less than Africa's diplomatic balance. This isn't just a legal showdown anymore. It's becoming a continental chess match between Kenya and Nigeria. Two powerful nations locked in a confrontation that could shape the future of African justice. In Nairobi, Kenya's foreign minister, Mutua Komanda, stood before the press. We will not allow our sovereignty or our judicial system to be disrespected. Nigeria has 7 days. That is our position, and it is final. Behind the scenes, a diplomatic firestorm has erupted. The Nigerian High Commission requested a closed-door negotiation. But Kenya refused, demanding a formal apology before any discussion. Sources inside Kenya's cabinet reveal there is no intention of backing down. Not this time. In Abuja, the response has been carefully muted. The Nigerian government has not issued an official counterstatement. But internal leaks paint a different picture. We don't respond to ultimatums, one senior aide told reporters off the record. Kenya can't dictate how we manage national security. Instead, the strategy appears clear. Buy time. Test Kenya's resolve. And lean on AU allies to prevent escalation. But that strategy may already be unraveling. The standoff is pulling in regional actors fast. South Africa has called for a diplomatic resolution rooted in African unity. Ghana has offered to mediate quietly. But Rwanda and Uganda, both critics of forced extraditions, have backed Kenya's legal stance. Meanwhile, the African Union Legal Affairs Commission has called an emergency session to review Nigeria's compliance with the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. And for the first time in years, Nigeria's diplomatic dominance is being questioned. Far beyond Africa, the story has hit the global radar. The BBC and Al Jazeera now run daily segments on the Kanu rendition crisis. In the UK, pressure is mounting on the Foreign Office to demand accountability. A leaked memo from a European Parliament Human Rights Committee reads: if Nigeria ignores Kenya's court ruling, it undermines every treaty on African and international justice. The US State Department has requested a formal human rights briefing from Nigeria. Nigeria is not just under pressure from Kenya. It's now facing scrutiny from the entire international community. Back home, in Nigeria's southeast, protests have resumed. Louder, larger, more organized than before. In cities like Abia, Enugu, and Onitsha, youths chant, "Return him or face the storm." Kenya obeyed the law, Nigeria must too. Even moderate voices are growing bold. Igbo elders, traditional rulers, and clergy are now calling for a peaceful resolution. And for Nigeria to honor the law. It's no longer a fringe demand. It's a regional cry for justice. 2 nations. 1 man. 7 days. With 5 days left, the pressure is unbearable. Nigeria must choose. Stand tall and isolated, or bend and survive. Will diplomacy win? Will power override law? Or will Africa be forced to watch one of its greatest powers fall under the weight of a single misstep? It started with a quiet ruling in Nairobi. It grew into a tense standoff between 2 African nations. And now, it has erupted onto the world stage. The United Kingdom, the African Union, even the United Nations. One by one, they've entered the arena. And Nigeria is finding itself more isolated than ever. This is no longer just about Nnamdi Kanu. This is about Africa's credibility and Nigeria's international standing. On day 3 of Kenya's deadline, a shock statement comes from London. UK Foreign Secretary delivers a direct message. The United Kingdom is concerned by the unlawful transfer of a British citizen. We urge Nigeria to engage with all parties and international law. It's subtle, but unmistakable. This is Britain siding with Kenya. British MPs take it further, demanding sanctions on Nigerian officials if Kanu is not returned. The House of Commons schedules a hearing on Nigeria's breach of international conventions concerning UK citizens. For the first time, Nigeria's biggest diplomatic partner is questioning its trust. Then, Nairobi gets a boost. The AU's Legal and Political Affairs Commission meets in Addis Ababa. And in a 5-2 decision, they issue a damning advisory. Member states must respect cross-border legal rulings. Any breach weakens the continental judicial order. Translation: Nigeria's rendition of Kanu was illegal under AU Charter law. Several AU states call for a continental penalty system for those who violate internal court decisions. Kenya is no longer alone. The AU is behind them. And Nigeria is now on trial by its peers. Meanwhile, at the UN Human Rights Council, a petition arrives. Filed by Kanu's UK legal team. And signed by multiple African human rights groups. The accusation: extraordinary rendition, violation of due process, unlawful detention. The Working Group on Arbitrary Detention begins its review. If they issue an opinion condemning Nigeria, it could trigger global travel restrictions, aid suspensions, asset freezes under international human rights clauses, and worse. If the International Criminal Court picks up the case, Nigerian officials could be indicted. This has gone far beyond Abuja's control. Privately, Nigeria is scrambling. Inside also rock, diplomatic cables fly back and forth. Top Nigerian envoys are dispatched to Pretoria, to lobby South Africa. Accra, to pressure Ghana to stay neutral. Addis Ababa, to beg the AU not to escalate. A back channel opens with the British High Commission, offering a quiet deal. Kanu stays, but gets softer prison conditions. But Britain refuses. Kenya refuses. The pressure is not easing. It's increasing. Now, the question is no longer what happened. It's what happens next. If Nigeria refuses to return Kanu, it may lose voting power in AU sessions. Its leadership may face visa bans across the EU and UK. Ongoing international loans and aid could be halted. And most painfully, foreign investment confidence will plummet. The IMF and World Bank quietly express concern. Multinationals begin reevaluating partnerships. And headlines around the world now use one phrase: Nigeria versus the law. Kenya stood its ground. And now, the world is standing with it. From London to Geneva, from Addis Ababa to New York. The call is the same. Return Kanu, follow the law. Respect the court. Nigeria is powerful. But even the powerful are not above process. In the next episode, we enter day 4, and things start to fall apart within Nigeria itself. The pressure outside is high. But inside, the cracks are beginning to show. While the world demands justice, inside Nigeria, another war is unfolding. Quiet, fierce, and dangerously unstable. It's not on the streets yet. Not on the front pages. But inside also rock, inside the military, and within the ruling party. A power struggle is exploding. Kenya may have started the countdown. But Nigeria's own crisis, it's now fueling the fire. President Tinubu's inner circle is at war with itself. 3 camps are now clashing. The legalists urging immediate release or a diplomatic return of Kanu to Kenya. The hardliners demanding total defiance and arrest of protest leaders. The survivors looking for a middle ground that protects Tinubu's legacy. Tempers flare in private meetings. Intelligence reports say the president has ordered no public comment. A silence that reflects internal chaos more than strategy. One insider tells Africa Black Box, "No one knows what the president will do next. Not even the president." Behind the curtain, Nigeria's powerful security agencies are also divided. The Department of State Services, DSS, believes Kanu's continued detention is a national security necessity. But a faction of the military now questions whether the crisis is worth the fallout. A leaked internal memo from the defense headquarters reads, "If regional rebellion escalates, we are not prepared for a multi-front domestic response." Translation: if protests grow into unrest, the Nigerian army may not back the government's defiance. Governors from Nigeria's southeast have begun breaking rank. The governor of Enugu reportedly called for an emergency reconciliation summit. Imo's deputy governor warned, "If this is allowed to fester, 2027 will be unwinnable for any party from the center." In private calls with Tinubu, at least 2 governors allegedly begged him to consider a conditional release deal, begin decentralization talks with Igbo elders, and avoid pushing the Southeast toward radicalism. Their fear: the Southeast could become the next Niger Delta. The ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, is also feeling the heat. Youth wings have threatened to pull support. Northern leaders are accusing the party of weak handling of national unity. And Southeast APC members are under intense community pressure to denounce Abuja's silence. Party insiders say, if this goes wrong, we'll lose Anambra, Imo, Enugu, maybe more. And the North? They are watching how we respond. What began as a court ruling is now tearing Nigeria's ruling class from the inside out. And on the streets, the people are no longer waiting for permission. Day 4 of the Kenya ultimatum cease. A 10,000-person march in Onitsha. Civil disobedience movements in ABA and Enugu. Online mobilization under hashtag Return Kanu now trending worldwide. Universities in Lagos begin hosting open debates. Even Lagos State Police report signs of planned, coordinated civil resistance. If the government doesn't act soon, this could spiral into national unrest. Inside the villa, loyalty is cracking. Inside the army, patience is wearing thin. Inside the party, fear is rising. And on the streets, the countdown continues. Nigeria's government isn't just under pressure from Kenya or the world. It's now under siege from within. Tomorrow, day 5 dawns. Will it bring a resolution? Or will Nigeria move one step closer to constitutional collapse? This is Africa Black Box. 7 days. That was Kenya's warning. Now, 5 are gone. 2 remain. And inside Nigeria's highest corridors of power, all eyes are on one man, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He's been silent, strategic, calculating. But now, the question is no longer if he'll act. It's what will he do? According to senior advisors, 3 options sit on the president's desk. Immediate diplomatic return of Kanu to Kenya, with public spin as a technical correction. Negotiated compromise, offering Kanu soft release, compensation, and public silence. Total defiance, refuse all demands and risk regional and global backlash. Each one has consequences. Option 1 would calm international tensions, but enrage nationalist supporters. Option 2 buys time, but may anger both sides. Option 3 pleases hawks, but risks Nigeria's diplomatic and legal collapse. Insiders say Tinubu is leaning toward option 2. But time is running out. The National Security Council has sounded the alarm. A leaked intelligence brief states, any failure to address the Kanu crisis by day 7 will likely trigger coordinated protest, internet shutdowns, and loss of control in key states. DSS, NSA, and military chiefs presented a joint report high protest potential in Abia, Ebonyi, Anambra, Enugu, Imo. Medium risk protests in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt. Cyber attacks and global embarrassment very likely. Their recommendation: de-escalate through controlled legal retreat. But the political fallout could be immense. In just 24 hours, President Tinubu received calls from Ruto of Kenya, reaffirming the 7-day deadline. Ramaphosa of South Africa, urging compromise to avoid AU breakdown. British PM's office, demanding updates on Kanu's status. US State Department, threatening travel and economic sanctions if violation continues. One senior diplomat confides. Tinubu now knows the world will not look away. The question is, will he blink? Observers close to the presidency describe Tinubu as calm but cornered. He is weighing the 2027 elections, and whether appearing weak now could doom him. The unity of Nigeria, and whether Kanu's case is now a symbol of deeper grievances. His legacy as either the man who diffused crisis, or deepened it. A trusted fictional advisor tells Africa Black Box. He wants to appear decisive. But this isn't a Lagos problem. It's international. It's historical. It's explosive. Late last night, Nigerian diplomats initiated secret talks with the Kenyan Foreign Ministry, British legal observers, and representatives of Nnamdi Kanu's legal team. The rumored offer: Kanu to be transferred to house arrest under AU monitoring. Nigeria to issue a private apology through diplomatic channels. Kenya to suspend international complaints if deadline is acknowledged. Will it work? Kenya is holding firm. The UK is demanding full transparency. Kanu's lawyers say half measures won't work. Time is slipping. And public pressure is about to reach boiling point. 6 days gone. 1 left. The question is no longer what happened. It's what happens now. President Tinubu is out of time, out of room, and perhaps out of options. Tomorrow is day 7. The world will know what Nigeria truly stands for. This is Africa Black Box. And tomorrow, the clock hits 0. Day 7. The final day. The final chance. The deadline Kenya set. The countdown the world followed. And the moment Nigeria can no longer avoid. Will President Tinubu release Nnamdi Kanu, or defy the world? In Nairobi, cameras are already rolling. Diplomats from South Africa, Ghana, and the UK arrive at Kenya's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. At 8 a.m., a Kenyan spokesperson addresses the press. Our position remains unchanged. By midnight, we expect legal compliance. Any further delay will activate our next phase of international response. There are no smiles. No last-minute softening. Kenya will escalate. Back in Abuja, the gates of Oso Rock are closed to media. But inside, a war of words is unfolding. President Tinubu gathers the Attorney General, the DSS Director, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and 2 former Nigerian heads of state acting as informal advisors. Sources say 3 final positions are argued. Return Kanu immediately, control the narrative, preserve international standing. Negotiate through AU, delay the fallout, by time. Reject the demand outright, protect sovereignty at all cost. One general reportedly tells the president, if we bend now, Nigeria will never speak from strength again. But another, older voice counters. If we don't bend now, we may never stand again. By noon, international reaction begins to snowball. The African Union Commission publicly supports Kenya's position. The UK Parliament begins emergency debate on sanctions. The UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention issues a preliminary concern notice to Nigeria. Western media headlines explode. Nigeria versus the world. African law on the brink. Kanu case to define Pan-African justice. Even China issues a rare statement urging respect for international legal norms. This is now a diplomatic avalanche. As the world waits, so does Nigeria's southeast. In ABA, Enugu, Awka, and Onitsha, massive crowds gather, holding signs, chanting, praying, no violence. But the tension is electric. A popular bishop stands before a crowd of thousands. Today, justice will either take root or be buried by politics. Young protesters are live streaming globally. Hashtags #Day7 decision and #Return Kanu now trend worldwide. One activist live stream is watched by over 2.1 million people. As the clock strikes midnight, Kanu remains in custody. Kenya's threat remains live. And Nigeria's silence becomes its loudest statement yet. Did Nigeria choose strength? Or just delay the inevitable?
Ndị be anyị ngwadalụ ụlọ nenu dịka unu si wee na-esola n'iru akwụkwọ n'ihe nka anyị na-eme na Eastern News 24. Ka efi were ikwu gbasịta maka ya bụ ife ndị a niile nọ n'iru akwụkwọ n'ụbọchị uhuruchi nke taa. Ka efi wee ikwu gbasịta maka ya bụ ife drọpụrụ ife iche n'ụdị nke gị ngwa nke mesịa na ụmụnne m.